All right, for all you athletes that were gone on Friday, I'm going to give you a very quick run through what we went over. Um, it's going to be the express version. So here we go. I finished up giving you a little bit of information about early 20th century Russia and China. And so now we're going to move it on over to the Ottoman Empire. The Young Turks and Turkification. Let's see, what do we need to know? Ottoman Empire, early 20th century, they're still sick man, they're still dying. Matter of fact, this is where we finally see them finally, kind of turn into true history. The Young Turks were members of the Ottoman government. And when we say young, I don't mean they were like in their 20s, 30s. They were young as in their maybe 30s, 40s, 50s. Not like the very, very old sultans and the top of the kind of the upper reaches of the government of the Ottoman Empire. The Young Turks had their kind of own different plans for Turkey going into the 20th century, a philosophy that they called Turkification. And on one hand, it was basically kind of looking to Europe in terms of some inspiration there, modernizing, that sort of thing. But there was also another element of it where the Young Turks wanted to see all of the different kinds of, think about it, they're this wide, vast empire, and they're made up of people of all kinds of different ethnicities and races and religions. And the Young Turks wanted to eliminate that. They wanted to see what they called Turkification. That's basically that all the people are going to become Turks, and I say that in the cultural means. So what they're saying is this diversity that we have in the empire needs to go away, and everyone needs to get on board. Same religion, same culture, same that kind of thing. So they're an interesting group. They kind of remind me of maybe a bit of the Japanese in that they definitely see the advantages in modernizing and kind of using the West as a model there, but they also have really strong fears about loss of culture. And actually they maybe do the Japanese one more by, they're not even worried about a loss of culture. They want to create culture and a very homogeneous culture, mainly one driver going on there. So that is what you got there with the Young Turks and Turkification. All right, heading on into the years right prior to World War One. The Ottoman Empire found themselves kind of butting heads more and more with the French and the British. This is just a continuation of conflict that's been going on involving those countries. By the time you get to that turn of the 20th century, though, it's beginning to be more and more about trade. The British and the French are pretty much working overtime to kind of create obstacles to the Ottoman Empire being able to take advantage of their position, right there on the far eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea, kind of that, again, controlling territory that where you see overland trade routes, coming from Asia that still exist, and then having kind of this nominal control over sea routes. The French and British have, over the last couple of centuries, have slowly kind of worn down the Turkish, I don't want to put that, pretty much their dominance of that. And so you have definitely some ill will between these countries when World War One breaks out. This will be a big part of the reason why when the war breaks out, the Ottoman Empire is going to join with Germany and Austria-Hungary to end up creating what comes to be known as the Central Powers by the time World War One ends. And by hitching his wagon to Germany, the Ottoman Empire is, in effect, is siding with what will be the losing side in World War One. Obviously, something they can't tell, don't know about. But when the war ends and Germany is defeated, Austria-Hungary, Germany's other ally, is defeated, and the Ottoman Empire is defeated, the punishment that both Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire face is that their empires are basically stripped away from them. They are divided up. A lot of the countries are given their independence. Some come under the control of some of the victors of World War One. But this is where the Ottoman Empire finally permanently dies. Okay, and like I said, a lot of the territory it had controlled, it will never be. It's gone for good. The main part, kind of that central part of the Ottoman Empire, Istanbul, and those direct areas around there, that geographic region will end up creating the modern nation of Turkey, and that will be as much as what is left of the old Ottoman Empire, for those people who had kind of lorded over that empire for all those years. It comes down to them being left with just one country, Turkey. The first leader of significance to take control in Turkey is Mustafa Kemal, known as Ataturk. And kind of like I was talking about Sun Yat-sen up there at the top of the slide, being kind of like the George Washington of modern China, Kemal is kind of like the George Washington of modern Turkey. And this is a guy that, with now a new country, kind of stripped down, no empire anymore, really makes the very, very best out of a bad situation. He kind of takes a bit from the Young Turks, in that now he goes whole hog into westernizing the country, modernizing, making deliberate, direct efforts to catch up. More about in modernizing and industrializing things like that. Not military, not really going down that road. He definitely does not go down the same road with the Young Turks, though, when it comes to their ideas about basically assimilation. Kemal does the opposite, and he pretty much says that Turkey will not be a Muslim state. It will not have any official religion. He basically declares Turkey to be secular, that any faith can be practiced and done so without any fears of harassment or interference from the government. I should also add that that he is also, not that I mentioned it there in A, but Ataturk is also seen very much as a reformer to this brand new country of Turkey. He pushes through compulsory education for all children to raise literacy rates and basically the overall education level of the country. He is actually ahead of the curve of some Western nations in giving women in Turkey the right to vote. And so, a guy that, you could kind of argue, depending on your positioning, that, kind of brings in a breath of fresh air into this newly formed country of Turkey at the end of World War I. But yes, kids, with that, the Ottoman Empire is gone forever. All right, let's flip it over to the Western Hemisphere and Mexico. We start into the year 1910. Porfirio Diaz is the dictator, and that's key word there, dictator of Mexico at that time. He is a very much kind of a top-down kind of a leader, and uses all the means of the government to keep control of his country. By the time we get to 1910, the country is definitely starting to careen a bit out of control. I think one stat jumps out that basically 1% of the wealthiest in Mexico control 97% of Mexico's land. Okay, which means you have a massive peasant population that is completely disenfranchised and increasingly aware of the fact that that they are in that state. They're not just kind of walling around in ignorance. They know that that they have been given the ultimate raw deal, and so. With Francisco Madero as their leader, the Mexicans is kind of, to a certain extent, kind of a popular peasant uprising, but definitely revolution breaking out against Diaz to try to create a government that's going to give more opportunity to the mass peasant population. 1910 starts off what's going to be about 10 to 15 years of just extreme violence in Mexico during this revolution. They estimate somewhere upwards of about 2 million Mexicans are going to die through violence, all connected to this. But when it is all said and done, Diaz is out. He does not, and his government does not survive this. They are forced out. Madero comes in. A new constitution is written for Mexico, and the Institutional Revolutionary Party takes charge, and the PRI, as it's known when you kind of translate it in and out of Spanish, the PRI will pretty much be the main political party that will run Mexico all the way up to right around the turn of the 21st century, right about the year 2000, and until they are. I don't know who the current leader as far as what their political party is, but the PRI had made itself kind of unpopular by the time you get to the year 2000. So kind of out now. But going back to where we need to be focused in on, yes, this is what brings in a somewhat more constitutional based government that is going to make that effort to give people, the ordinary people of Mexico, more of a voice. All right. Okay. And then from there, we're going to do a very quick run through the causes of World War I, the kind of the first big star of the show. Oh, by the way, I should mention, talked about it in class, that little bit that I just covered with you in Mexico, that was the entire subject of the DBQ back in 2020, I think. So just your reminder that sometimes the most minor of little topics that just kind of get thrown in the mix while we're going through our units and going through notes, that's the kind of stuff that the College Board may decide to pick on for a DBQ, because number one, number two there, yeah, that was it. And so students feeling like, gee, we didn't get a whole lot about that, and I was in no position to argue with them. It's like, you're darn right you didn't. We just kind of hit it in passing and kept on going. But when you're given a topic like that and you don't know a lot about it, just sit back for a moment and think about other revolutions you've learned about. How can you draw some similarities to other revolutions? Think about people downtrodden and wanting to stand up, and have their voices heard. I mean, there's parallels between what happens in Mexico, what happens in the United States, what happens in France, what happens in Haiti, what happens in South America. I mean, think about it that way if you end up with a topic that you don't know all the nuts and bolts of, but it's on a bigger theme that we have learned a lot about. That's what we talked about in class anyway. All right, causes of World War I. We'll be hitting on some deep background causes on this, but the specific trigger point, the event that causes World War I is going to be what you've got there for A. Okay, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the guy who had been was pretty much on tap to take over the leadership of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. His father Joseph was the leader at the time, elderly guy. People weren't expecting he was going to be around much longer. And when he either gave up power or died, Franz Ferdinand was going to be the guy who would step up and take his place. All right. Except that couldn't happen because he ends up being killed in June of 1914 when he is traveling to some of the outer limits of the empire, and is in Bosnia on a kind of a goodwill visit when he ends up being shot and killed along with his wife while they are driving through the streets of Sarajevo in Bosnia in June 1914. Okay. His assassin is that guy you see pictured there, Gavrilo Princip. He is a Serb. Serbia was a neighboring country of Bosnia. And while Serbia was not a possession of Austria-Hungary, wasn't part of the empire, they were a country that oftentimes felt the weight of Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary had no problem with kind of pushing its power around, and sometimes wanting to kind of flex its muscles and kind of just push a lot of influence on some of those other countries around their empire. And Serbia was a country that wasn't appreciative of it. They valued their independence, strong nationalist kind of undertone behind the Serbian people. And what they saw as this interference coming from Austria-Hungary, to a certain extent, some Serbs believed it was, kind of beginning to grease the rails for an eventual takeover. That Austria-Hungary may force Serbia in against its will into the empire. So the assassin, who was part of a gang, which we'll get right here, the Black Hand was the name of this, what we would nowadays just call a terrorist organization. Okay, some would call freedom fighters, depending on your perspective, all about your perspective. But this was this underground gang that Princip was one of the leaders of, and a nationalist group who saw themselves as doing that, standing up and fighting back for their country of Serbia. And so when they heard that Franz Ferdinand was going to be next door in the neighboring country of Bosnia on this goodwill visit, they went across the border armed to the teeth, and through a strange turn of events, which we may have time to cover in class, Princip was given the opportunity and followed through on it and assassinated Franz Ferdinand. Okay, so that's the kind of the connection there, and we can talk about that kind of that role of nationalism as being in the backgrounds to this assassination. So I'm going to run you through a chain of events. Those of you who had me in World Studies, we spent a lot of time on this, but you're getting the express version now. And pretty much as an act of revenge, basically vengeance for the assassination, Austria-Hungary, after a little bit of threatening and ultimatums, declares war on Serbia. Before Austria-Hungary does that, they do take a step back and consult with their alliance partner. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was in an alliance with Germany, and right before World War I breaks out, with Italy. Three countries that together belong to an alliance called the Triple Alliance, okay? And it was your basic mutual defense alliance. An attack on one is an attack on all. If someone attacks someone, the other two come to their aid, that whole kind of a thing, all right? So with Austria-Hungary wanting to make war on Serbia in revenge for the assassination, they do check in with Germany first and say, hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And Kaiser Wilhelm, the leader of Germany, told Austria-Hungary, you have our support. Go ahead and launch your war against Serbia, and we will back you up. Okay. Russia, mentioned there in two, also belonged to an alliance system. They belonged to an alliance system with France and Great Britain, called the Triple Entente. Okay, which just is French for alliance. Russia did not have an official treaty with Serbia, but Russia had kind of a long-standing relationship with Serbia. The Serbian people were, ethnically speaking, were Slavic, as are Russian people, and Russia saw itself as kind of like almost kind of like a big brother protector of Serbia. And so all of this drama going on between Serbia and Austria-Hungary definitely gets the attention of Russia. And matter of fact, Tsar Nicholas II, the leader of Russia, begins to kind of move some troops a little closer to the border over towards Serbia, as kind of like a little bit of a warning to Austria-Hungary that you might want to think twice about war here, okay? Adding to the weirdness of what goes on here in the summer of 1914 is the fact that Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany are cousins, okay? First cousins, as they are also first cousins to the King of England, King George. Yeah, you've got the leaders of three of these major European powers who are all related to one another and had grown up together. We had little kids playing together in Queen Victoria's castle back over in England. They knew each other. They wrote each other letters. They corresponded. And now they're at odds with each other, heading towards war. So in the month of July, you have this exchange of letters between Kaiser Wilhelm and Nicholas II. I mean, they go by first name basis, so it's Willie and Nicky. But they're writing letters to each other, basically begging the other person to stand down on this. It's like, pull your troops back. And Willie Wilhelm writes this to Nicholas, and Nicholas responds, tell Austria-Hungary to get out of Serbia. I mean, but it reaches a point where Wilhelm realizes he's not going to be able to talk the Russians down on this, and so he's a pretty aggressive kind of character, and so he doesn't wait to find out what's going to happen next. He declares war on Russia, and because Russia's in that alliance with France, and France is just like right on the other side of Germany, he doesn't wait to see what France is going to do either. He declares war on France. Okay, I think he's holding out a little bit of hope that maybe England will sit this one out, but here by the time we're getting toward the end of July, we now have Austria-Hungary, Russia, France, Germany. We now have a number of countries that are at war. Okay, when Germany declares war on France, they also launch a plan that they had made years before. It was a German general by the name of Alfred von Schlieffen. And so the Schlieffen Plan is one that has Germany not attacking France directly across the common border between those two countries, but instead marching up north of France through Belgium and then attacking into the north of France, and with the idea that that would give them a better way of attacking in and capturing Paris, maybe quickly ending the war. When Germany informs Belgium that they're not at war, but Germany is going to be coming through their country, using their roads to launch an attack against France, Belgium says, no, you're not. Belgium says, we don't want to get involved in this war. We'd like to stay neutral. We don't give you permission to come marching into our country or for using our roads or anything else. Stay out of our country. We keep us out of this. And Wilhelm gives the orders to launch through Belgium anyway. And so what it says there for number 4 is kind of how it looks. Like Germany is now invading Belgium. Little Belgian army tries to put up a little resistance, but the Germans just kind of steamroll over them. All right. Kind of not really well known was the fact that Belgium and Great Britain had a long-standing treaty from almost 100 years ago that the Brits had guaranteed the Belgians that if anyone ever violated their neutrality, that Belgium would come in to help them. And so when the Germans go marching into Belgium, the British government, which so far has stayed out of this, by the way, the British government informs Germany, you need to get your troops out of Belgium or else, we're at war. Germany tells Britain, well, we have this plan and we can't reverse the plan. So, we're marching through Belgium. And the British say, fine, then, we are at war. And so by the time you get to basically the first week of August of 1914, you have all the major powers in Europe who are now at war with each other. It's not a world war. It's a major European war, biggest European war that had been seen since, back in the days of Napoleon in the early 19th century. But you definitely have a fairly significant conflict that has now broken out. That's what we covered on Friday, all right? Make sure you get that, and then I'm hitting you with some more.